Let's see what Preach has to say about Shadowbringers, Final Fantasy 14. Really, he liked Shadowbringers more than he liked Endwalker. And honestly, I kind of agree, because all the biggest revelations were in Shadowbringers. Everything in Endwalker was really fucking cool, starting from level 83. But the revelations in Shadowbringers that connected all the dots in what's it called throughout the expansions was so good.
Lord Vorthree, your reign of tyranny is at an end. For too long you have preyed upon the desperation of the poor.
What nonsense is this? Me? Unseated? No. It's impossible. Inconceivable.
Tiny ass wings.
Yo, that guy's got a baby on his titties.
Baby on his titties.
That's fucked up.
Did he say that's for
Got a baby on his titties. That's fucked up.
Oh, that's fucked up. I thought he said that's for Tom. Like the crawling. I'm surprised he can crawl at his age. Just kidding.
You read the title correctly. It's not hyperbole. Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers has elevated to my #1 spot of RPG stories ever told on video games. Divinity Original Sin 2 has been dethroned, and we need to talk about it. I'm not going to go into the story details. You guys know the story.
I need to play Divinity Original Sin too. Like if the story was like #1 before Shadowbringers.
But this game took me to tears multiple times.
True.
In the 30+ years that I've been gaming, I have cried one time at a video game, just one time. But Shadowbringers got me multiple times. So we're going to talk about that. And I can safely say, I would now play literally anything written by Gigakawa. There is no doubt whatsoever. If she wrote something, I'm going to play it. I'm going to go through that story because it is utterly incredible. And where better to start with possibly the best villain of all time? Emmett Selk.
A vision shared of a paradise lost.
Because he's a false, in my opinion, he's a false villain. He's a villain to you, but he's not really a villain.
Preserved only in song and scripture and pain.
Damn.
Once upon a time.
Just imagine what he went through. When you think about what he went through. Damn.
Yet here we find ourselves again. To look, learn, and remember. Now, do you see why we yearn for the great rejoining? For our world, for our people, for all creation to be made whole again.
God, the music,
Wouldn't
man.
you wish for the same?
Crafting a villain is insanely difficult, like way harder than you think it is. It's very easy to get somebody to do some acts of unspeakable evil, and then we as the audience all know that's the bad guy and we should dislike him. But as we all know, sometimes that comes across really flat. It's like, oh, he's baddie McBad guy, or wherever it's supposed to be. A really good villain has a point, like a point that you understand and you can see where they're coming from. That's what makes a really good villain.
Heroes are the easiest to write, if you think about it. Because heroes are only as good as the villains.
Spectacular villain has a point that you can empathize with, that you can actually feel like, I might be on this guy's side. And that's what Emmett Selk is. He is that character. You feel like you understand everything that he's
not. The thing is, he's not malicious. He's not doing, like, La Brea was malicious. He did stuff. Like, he did evil things for only, like, not only for his enjoyment, but like he did evil things for his enjoyment as well as probably his goal of rejoining, right? It's like he hated us for existing, even though it's not our fault, right? Like us, the players, the characters in the game. He hated, especially the player character, right? Emmett Selk was not malicious. He had a clear goal. He didn't commit, like, genocide for his amusement. Everything was in order to bring back his people, which is like, yeah, that's fucking Fuck, man, what he's been through. Oh my god.
He's fighting for, and in a different life, you may even be on his side.
True.
And I think this is why I would personally rate, after the thousands and thousands of video games I've played, Emmett Selk as
Jesus.
perhaps the #1 video game villain of all time.
Which makes
and
the
it
story
truly
number
should
one.
be seen in that light due to how he's written. I was lost with him at first. He's popping up, he's puppeteering things from the shadows, he's manipulating the Emperor, but until we get to Amarot, we don't really know what his goal is, and he's got that mystery about him, but he's also got this stoic patience, and that all makes sense. He's everlasting. He's lived for millennia. He has calculated and manipulated catastrophes across so many worlds, decimated entire populations. And he has the patience and wisdom to see, wait, maybe I could try this thing out. And that's exactly what he does in Shadowbringers. It's like, maybe I should take a different approach this time. Because for Emmett Selk,
Why
and
not?
you really feel this, if it doesn't work, there's always the next time. There's always another time to try it again, because he's not going anywhere. And he's aiming for his goal. If it takes another 10,000 years, it doesn't matter to him. So the first time I was brought to tears will probably not resonate with you guys at all, but it was my arrival in Amarot. The setup and execution here was perfection, but also it kind of lies with my audience. So give me a little rope here to explain my situation. Bismarck was a laughingstock to me. It was the most disappointing encounter, and I'm sure that many others experienced the same in Heaven's Ward. His redemption and the Urianger silliness leading to Amarot just filled me with joy. I was really happy after a dark time, and at the same time, I was really wondering if there was yet another underwater area like we had seen and not particularly enjoyed in Stormblood. Under the waves we go, and sure enough, it's the bottom of the sea, and there are old ruins like we'd expect. I honestly thought that was the culmination, that the Ascians used to live here. That would be the big reveal, and we'd be happy with that. But then a weird thing started to happen as the zone story was coming to its ending. My live audience at the time began a constant wave of excitement and spamming as I was moving through what was a relatively ordinary cave. So much, in fact, it literally lagged out my stream, and I had to beg people to calm down and stop. For 6 months since I started Final Fantasy XIV, my chat, my long-term audience, and the team I work with every single day,
They were
kept
waiting for him
Amarot
to get
secret.
there.
And you might be wondering, why the hell would that matter compared to some of the other major spoilers? of Final
Bioshock, I
Fantasy
think, was
XIV?
his thing.
My favorite game franchise of all time is Bioshock.
Yeah.
Not Infinite. We literally replay it every year like a tradition. And walking out of that cave and seeing Amarot for the first time, realizing that like 2 of the best games I've ever played were merging together, combined with the excitement of everybody who was watching, and the DMs that started flying to me from my closest friends saying how much they had longed for this moment since the moment I had started playing was too much. And that would be tears number 1. And look, fact is, I love video games. I love them. They mean so much to me, and the experiences we share together, that it made me so emotional for that moment. But what a revelation it was.
Was it Denos? Yeah.
They called it Rapture.
Okay. That music hits.
Are you fucking kidding me right now?
When Yondo spoke of a city, I did not think they meant an actual city.
They mixed in my favorite game franchise of all time.
Then we are seeing the same view.
God, I love this music.
I don't think I could be
So-
happier than right now. This is a little overwhelming with everything that's going on right now. Nups, you kept this secret? After the hours and hours we've spoke of Rapture?
Yeah, man.
This is a moment, isn't it?
The whale.
God. I'm actually gonna cry. Oh my god. I can't process everything that's happening. I literally can't process everything that's happening right now. Amarot is such an amazing place. You are confronted with the memories and the past and the society that the Ascians built. And if you're Emmett Selk, how can you not want this back? How can you not feel like you need to do everything in your power to get your friends, your family, your loved ones, your cousins, your parents, your children, if you had a chance to get them back? In Amarok, you'd learn what they had to do to bring about Zodiac, and then what they had to do to bring about Hydaelyn. And you're goddamn right that if this happened to you, you would have that same impulse. And that's what makes him so great. You can see his point. He's bad, he's misguided. Yes, what came afterwards is a whole multiple worlds of life that don't need to be destroyed. But you can absolutely empathize with his position that, yes, he wants them back, just as you or I would in those scenarios. And that's what elevates him to such great heights.
Yeah.
And I know this comes across as like, oh, wow, bad, and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, it's worth discussing. The jailer in World of Warcraft in the Shadowlands. So many people, as Shadowlands came to an end, were defending that, hey, the jailer just didn't have time. There was no way to develop that character. He only had one expansion of breathing room.
There was no reason for him to have one expansion.
For us to learn about him and care about him and have a good finale. It's just not possible. And then I stand there and I go,
yeah, look at them itself. That's one
this
expansion.
Is what's possible. And it's
one
so
expansion.
much better.
Yeah.
Remember. Remember us. Remember that we once lived.
Oh my god. The song. Oh my god. Oh. So good.
I want to talk about Thancred a little bit. It's no secret, I haven't liked Thancred since A Realm Reborn. He was very stereotypical for me. He was Mr. Smooth, Mr. Cool, but always kind of a fuck-up. He was the master of espionage who didn't notice Shinryu was sitting on top of the building that he was supposedly investigating. Like, every time he popped up, he kind of turned up after the action, and also sometimes even claimed to have been really helpful during that moment, and it wasn't for me. But Shadowbringers, and I think Ishikawa...
Well, he never really claimed it. He claimed in front of us, but when he reported, he said that he didn't really get to do anything. I know which one he's talking about. It's an ARR. I think it was the Ifrit thing, where he said that's like, I'm going to take a bit of credit for this, but when he talked to Minfilia and when he reported, he said he didn't really do anything. So in front of us, he had this bravado, but it's like when he was like reporting and stuff like that, he was actually really honest. And yeah, but again, I understand what he's saying about Thancred.
Again, excelled here by going, I kind of get that feeling too. And that's what I got from the Thancred story in Shadowbringers with Reen, is that Thancred has this baggage with Minfilia and needs some connection that is a little bit more than what we've seen through his adventures with the Scions. Ranjit is like an okay character.
Ranjit?
Not amazing, not great, more leaning towards the evil side. But
fine.
We could tell with the Thancred, Reen, and the eventual resolution with Minfilia and Ranjit's involvement that something big was going to happen. The sun is setting on somebody's story. And the way they did this, and I think the biggest lesson they learned coming out of the 50-50 gameplay of Stormblood is that the Xenos one-on-one encounters that they had were kind of crap. Xenos stomps around very slowly, you would like half and half in it. But what they did with Thancred and Ranjit was just infinitely better. The final showdown between the two. It's
Yeah.
so excellently done, it beggars belief. Squeenix made the encounter play out that there was a very real and really stressful chance that you were just flat out going to lose, and Thancred was on his way out of Final Fantasy XIV. That mixed with like how he had grown over Shadowbringers, sent Reen forward on her own despite the desperation to see Minfilia for himself. It was glorious. As the encounter played out and the odds of success are dwindling, it gave me moments to think. This is it. Thancred's dying now, and honestly, I kind of was okay with it. I went through the grief and the acceptance during the encounter, and it wasn't because I used to dislike him and I was like happy he might be leaving, but because his story had finally elevated. I cared for this character, and it had reached a somewhat satisfying resolution. And I was going to be really sad to see him go. I was actually genuinely thinking to myself, I don't want him to go, but I'm okay with it. This is easily one of the best scripted encounters I've ever played. Dude, we're fucked, Chris. We're fucked. They managed to make a mountain fly into the sky, bro. How are we supposed to win?
It's totally fine, dude. Let's just build a Talos.
In the world's stupidest ideas, building a Talos that took us a month to get one working, that is this high, does not help us get to a mountain.
So we build a 300-foot Talos right up there, dude.
Oh, sure. Okay. Anything else you should do in the meantime? You want me groceries or what?
Yeah, so I think we just get everyone together from Norvrant, pickaxes, get the heart from the dwarves, quarry the stone, bam.
That would take literally a decade. That would take a decade while dipshit's up there about to kill everybody. How do you expect to do this?
It's done.
Yeah.
It was like 5 minutes, mate.
Good job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Ringers did really well with the silliness. And it needed that because this story is so dreadfully dark and heavy that you need to keep it light. Having Volthry's big old body wiggling around the floor it's funny, despite the fact of the horror of what he's doing in Yulmore. The Chais are such wonderful, wonderful characters, and building the Talos is just crazy fun. Having the reveal of Graha finally, which was my immediate thought, but you never know until they finally reveal it, was great. I actually love Graha. I think he's a wonderful addition to the Scions. He reminds me very much of Doctor Who. He's got this aged wisdom that's trapped inside this youthful body. So he's got this old mind, but the spirit of a youth that wants to go and do things. And I think he fits perfectly into the story. And speaking of that aged mind, we should move on to Elidibus before we wrap up with Emma. Elidibus was shocking. Absolutely shocking. Having known people now who have lost their faculties, sadly, it hit me very, very hard the way how well Elidibus was written into the story. It was a little surprising, actually, while I was streaming this, is how many people didn't really resonate much with Elidibus. But for me, it was everything that I knew could happen to real people, and you see him now as the rabid dog that needs to be put down. It's true, it wasn't in your face at first with Elidibus, but to see this person who has lived for millennia and the mind has decayed, and that's what it's about. The mind has gone. Through so many lives lived, it's rotted and become decrepit, and it's not working right. And now you've got this man who is just driven at this point by pure purpose. He's a robot
doesn't know why.
Who has just all it's got left in its functioning servos is the basic program that it was, programmed with when it was born.
I love how he chose the
Lost
music in the
all of
background.
that development and layers that came with it so much more. This is a guy who has sworn an oath to fulfill a task, and inside somewhere in that mind he knows that's what his purpose is.
The things with Elidibus was actually extremely confusing character to understand, not because of like he went through a lot of lives, but it's like a lot of the things, like why, like it wasn't too clear about how he gave everyone the power of the light, like how everyone was awoken, right? Even though it was kind of like he said that's like everyone has this power, but it's like it needs to awaken something, and like all he did was awaken stuff like that. But it's like, where is he bringing all these warriors of light from to like invade? Right? It's like, I'm pretty sure, like, is he bringing them throughout time and space, or like how does it work? You know, like shit like that, which is like a lot of it was very, very confusing, and also I didn't really understand what he was trying to achieve. Emmett Selk was understandable. Like they all want to achieve the same thing, right? But it's like it feels like what was Elizabeth trying to do? So Emmett Selk and La Habrea kind of tried to, in any means necessary, to get their world back, right? To get their like world back and stuff, their like people back and all that stuff. But Elidibus want to bring them back while keeping the ether balanced or something like that. I didn't really understand Elidibus, and I can't wait to like finish Stormblood on the second character, go through Shadowbringers again, really understand what Elidibus is talking about, because it really doesn't make it really, like, I can't really make a lot of sense of it. It's like I understand it, but I can't. It's like the way I understand has so many holes in it that it doesn't make a lot of sense, you know?
But he can't even remember swearing the oath. He doesn't remember
Yeah.
the why of it anymore.
Doesn't know
And
who.
earlier on, I called Elidibus a rabid dog. Now, that's not really accurate. Elidibus isn't foaming at the mouth. He's
Yeah.
not wild and unruly and out of control of his actions. But it's more the case that when it came to Elidibus and why I so sympathize with this character, despite what that character has done, is it felt like you were taking the old rabid dog out back to be put down. And it was for his own good as well as ours.
Yeah.
I honestly was crushed by the whole Elidibus
Bro,
thing.
look at this Illidan statue, man. Probably the only good product from the Blizzard store, and overpriced as fuck, but worth it, I think.
Reconciliation. Elidibus. I was needed. I withdrew myself from Zodiac for them. My people. My brothers. My friends. Stay strong. Keep the faith. At duty's end, we will meet again. We will. We will. The rains have ceased, and we have been graced with another beautiful day. But you are not here to see it.
God damn. I can't wait to understand the allied raid, no, the raid in Endwalker, and see where it leads us with Elidibus and La Habrea. I can't wait to get a better idea of like those two characters, because they are kind of weird in a sense that like they're not as transparent or like as obvious as Emmett Selk was. God, the music in the game. Every time I watch a Final Fantasy 14 video, makes me want to play it. Like, it doesn't matter what the video is about, as long as there's a bit of the gameplay, I'm like, fuck man, I want to play it. Unfortunately, I watch these videos at the end of the day when I need to go to sleep, so I can't play it.
Shadowbringers has so many individual set pieces of story that are utterly incredible. There's way too many to count. The little cutscenes, the little meetings, everything is great. But the pinnacle of for me is a little bit more elevated than that. What we need to talk about is how video games are not movies. They're a different medium entirely. And when that's used correctly, that's when it pushes a game to its absolute limit. When we're looking at things like what Hideo Kojima have done, a lot of people accuse him of making just movies and then slapping some gameplay in, but that's not what he does. And he's in fact very, very aware that that's not what the medium is. When they were creating PT and Silent Hills, a big conference that they had with Hideo Kojima was talking about how if we take a horror film, there's a certain aspect of the person, which would be the player, being removed from that because they get to watch the person on the screen always go through the scary door. They're going to lift up the hatch that you wouldn't do. But in video games, it's different. You can put the player in the position of having to open the door, of having to turn around.
Listening to the radio.
Spoopy content time.
In Shadowbringers, they did some really good storytelling through
I
gameplay.
remember playing a game called Fear. It's not even like, it's not that scary. It's just a shooter, but it's like it has these like super scary moments. Oh my god, man! Like it gets your heart. Like even though now I'm just watching it and it's Brian whatever, it like you get a bit of a sensation in your heart. Like what the fuck?
Play. We saw that with Thancred. They told a story through the gameplay. They timed it so well with Ranji.
Yeah.
And actually my best moment, and I mean this is my pinnacle moment of Shadowbringers, is just before that final confrontation with Emmett. We're stood in Amarok, we stand around, and typically Final Fantasy XIV has the big voice-acted cutscenes. They let those very talented actors convey the emotion and the story through their talents. Now, this time they didn't do that. They decided to have you individually speak with the Scions and read and take it in. Now, obviously, the skipper's going to skip past it, but for those of us who are invested in this story and are interested in what's happening, we got to turn around and spend our time, patience, soak it in. This is the finale. This is where we've been building up for so long, and this is why this moment meant so much. It's our final moment with the Scions, as far as we know, before we face down this incredible villain. And thankfully, and truthfully, and masterfully done by Squeenix, this was my pinnacle of Shadowbringers.
Squeenix.
Now, not every moment I've talked about here is the moments that brought me to tears. There was a few different ones, but I can't finish talking about Shadowbringers without the final moment that brought me to tears. I swore, and I mentioned this in our last video, is that if they did not resolve the Ardbert Seto situation, I was going to install the game, because it was so painful to me as a dog lover. And I'll admit, and I know many of you felt the same, the resolution to that story
5.3.
It was devastating. It's absolutely devastating.
That was 5.3 or 5.1?
Help it. I could feel it coming, and that was
This was
definitely
5.1.
a tearjerker for me and many, many thousands of other people who shared that experience with me. And that's how I felt about Shadowbringers at this point, which kind of brings us to the point where we're setting up for Endwalker and getting into that stuff, which will be next time, because genuinely, I had to take a break from playing the MSQ at this point. This is about patch 5.3. I was mentally exhausted. There was so much. In fact, until I went back to make this video and
of the actual
through
MSQ.
the piles of notes that we'd made during a Shadowbringers playthrough, I couldn't remember a lot of it, because it's so much that happens throughout it. And it's heavy. It's really heavy, which is why it's such a great story. It's possibly one of the only MSQ sections of FF14 I would play again, just to remember the details.
I'm not gonna lie. I am replaying the all of Final Fantasy XIV on the second character because I want to get to Shadowbringers. That's how much I love Shadowbringers and Endwalker story. I want to replay those two as soon as possible, but I also want to get everything that I kind of missed because I was kind of like dozing off or like didn't really care at some points of the main MSQ, and it's like, oh, whatever, get this, get that. It's like we need them to accept us, whatever. Now I'm reading everything because, man, small details at the randomest places, and they accumulate. It's really, really nice. But I am waiting for Shadowbringers.
And before we even begin down the Endwalker journey, it's time for a rest. So I think you can forgive me, guys, if I take my big fat cat and I have a little rest and call it a day.
Splendid. Truly splendid.
No, I'm not ready.
Pardon? Very well.
Good. That was really nice.
How can this be?
Oh man.
Seto, my old friend. You've grown. Oh, Ardbert, how I've missed you.
I'm sorry I couldn't keep you safe or even console you. Had I only learned to speak sooner, I would have told you how much you meant to me, how much I cared.
Background music.
I knew. I always knew. But I'm happy to hear it nonetheless. Thank you, Seto. My partner in crime. I see. His journey continues. Then I will not yet bid him rest. With you, he may look forward to many more adventures. It has been a while since last I flew. Perhaps I too will go on a little adventure. Ride the winds, seek the horizon. Yes, I think perhaps I will.
Oh man.
Shitty trash weed game.
Oh god, yeah. Shitty trash weed game, bro. Shitty trash weed game. Oh, claw, yeah, that's what I want to do with claws. Oh man, dude, yeah. Final Fantasy 14 story, like it's insulting to even compare WoW to Final Fantasy when it comes to story at any point. It is insulting. Like it's completely different universes. Oh my god, man. Ah, boy. Fuck.